Alright, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. Yes guys, welcome back to the George Benson Football Channel, number 2, GBFC 2, the home of the second channel here for the George Benson Football Channel. Today's video, disclaimer, it might be a little bit airy-fairy for some of you, and I'll go into my sarcastic reason as to why I say airy-fairy in a second, and it might be a bit heavy for some of you because I'm going to talk about emotions today, that taboo topic amongst some individuals, particularly men in modern day society. A lot of us struggle to talk about emotions, and that's absolutely fine because the ability to even realize that in the first place is the biggest stumbling block of this problem that is a pandemic in itself amongst the world. But today I want to talk about emotions in football. I want to talk about the mindset that we all, I guess, should have if we could have it, because it's very hard to control, particularly in a football sense, the way that we react to things, the way that we see things and feel things. But one of my biggest passions in life that a lot of you guys won't know about is psychology. I love to look at the differences between men and women because I feel as though if you can have an education on this kind of topic, it can only benefit you in so many ways in life, be it intimate relationships, family relationships, business ordeals and relationships within business. Having an understanding of the psychological differences between men and women, but also being able to be aware of those emotional sides of being a man in particular here, but it's the same for women as well. Women are allowed to be sad at football, of course. But for men, it is still seen as such a taboo thing to be upset about something. And I want to paint you guys a picture that you probably won't want to listen to again because it's still very raw in the memory. On Sunday night, England versus Italy. I'll be honest, I had tears in my eyes about halfway through extra time because at that very moment, I was so engrossed in the game, I was so involved in the connection that I had to the outcome of the result, that even watching the ball be kicked up and down the pitch for that 15 minutes, let alone even penalties, by the way, that was even worse. During that time, I'd allowed the overwhelming nature of what football means to me to completely engulf my headspace. Now that's absolutely fine while the ball is being kicked. Some people watch football as, some would say fair weather fans, but I think however much you want to invest in football is entirely up to you. I'm not going to sit here saying that I'm right and you're wrong because I consider football the biggest part of my life. That is entirely up to you to make that decision. Going back to the fallout of England being beaten by Italy on penalties to see Italy crowned champions of Europe on Sunday night. As a nation, England was united for the 3.5, borderline 4 weeks of this tournament where we still had a chance to win it, and lo and behold, it got to a point where we'd never in 55 years had as much chance of winning it as we did on Sunday night, which is an absolutely incredible feeling. Even for me, living in Bali in Southeast Asia, to see the scenes on the streets, yes, of course, there are some negatives, we'll get onto them in a moment, seeing the scenes on the streets, seeing the newspaper, seeing the Queen's Royal Guards playing It's Coming Home, was absolutely incredible. All of these little things that each of them are like really small things, but they add up to this huge macro level of unifying the country. It was a beautiful thing to witness, and it was a beautiful thing to feel. And unfortunately, the reason why the fallout of England being beaten by Italy was shrouded in a negative, horrible mist was due to the racist slurs that were thrown towards 3 of our players who unfortunately happened to miss the decisive penalties to enable Italy to win the competition. And it really got me thinking because I could never even consider sending an abusive message to a player. In my videos, even sometimes when I make like a sarcastic comment that paints a player who's not played very well in a negative way, I often sit there and wonder, this isn't doing it any good, For example, Jorginho. Many a times he's had a poor game in a Chelsea shirt, and I've been sat there on GBFC saying, Jorginho, can't see a future for him in the Chelsea team, and then lo and behold, that slice of humble pie comes out again, and Jorginho is now a double European champion. But the level in which people went to express their sadness, disgust, apparent hatred towards some of the England players was absolutely mind-blowing to me, and I think it really symbolises the hostility that not just men but women as well, human beings in general, have so much hostility to discomfort. I've been working on this side of myself for many years. I spend a lot of time when I'm not making videos or thinking about football, reading about football, talking about football, editing videos, whatever you may think. I spend a lot of time trying to understand the reasons why as human beings we think a certain way, why we can get into these loops and patterns of negative thoughts that can end up leading to mental health problems, depression. And I'll be very open and honest and say to you that there's not been many stages in my life where I could label myself as feeling any more than just a bit down. There were some times at the beginning of last year where I was generally dragging myself up every morning because I had a multitude of things going on in my life that really didn't make me feel good, and I wasn't dealing with it in a very good way. Bringing it back to the football, the issue surrounding racism is very much along the lines of a lack of education. It is commonly known that the reason why people use racist remarks to express themselves for many reasons, but the majority of the time it's down to a feeling of having a lack of voice and knowing that using these kind of terms and slurs is a way to get attention, which unfortunately in the world we live in today is paramount everywhere you look. People do things that they wouldn't actually really want to do just to get attention. The second thing is the generational side of things where, of course, not that racism has ever been, it has never deserved to have a place. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in 2021, we look back through history and we clearly see that racism has been prevalent for a very long time. So therefore the conditioning that we're all given as we are brought up is very much along the lines of, well, this was here, and unless you are actually educated on the right and wrong, unfortunately, it isn't so simple for some people to understand that using the colour of someone's skin is not the way to express our sadness, to express our disgust. So what I really wanted to say here in this video today for me is to bring it back to how I've learned to manage my emotions in football over the years. Because, you know, as a fan, we do go through roller coasters. One day you win and everyone's happy. And then lo and behold, that elation that you feel at the final whistle, within a few hours, you're looking forward to the next game. So you're always moving in football in terms of the emotional state of mind that you embody as a result of following your club or your nation. When Chelsea now lose, I am of course sad about it and I'm gutted about it, and you guys can watch my videos and think, bloody hell, Benson, you're doing all right there. You look a little bit mad, mate. And of course, it is the nature of the beast. I choose to fully embody my love for football every single day. It's the choice that I've made. And now I don't think I could ever undo it, no matter how hard I try. But reframing the position of a loss in your mind is a really, really good way to not allow negative thought patterns to take over. And this is relative not just with football, but it's also relative with just life in general. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and the first thing you see is a text message from your landlord and the rent is due, and you look in your account and you're a couple of $100 short maybe. Next thing you know, you can't turn up to your job today because you've looked at that text and you're thinking, blimey, everything kind of swallows you up in the ground. And I think in life, it is very important to minute by minute micromanage the way that we deal with everything. And I think in a footballing sense, when Chelsea are beaten, or when, let's use another example that isn't actually relative to me, but let's say your club get relegated from the Premier League. I'm not even going to make a joke about how that hasn't happened to me, because maybe one day it does, but I really hope it doesn't. Your club get relegated from the Premier League. There's obviously going to be a huge downfall in your mood. It's going to affect you because you want to be playing in the promised land. You want to be playing in the Premier League. But then you remember, you know what, next year we might win the league because we're in the Championship, and we couldn't win the Premier League, but we might win the Championship. And it's a way immediately to start reframing a situation so that you don't allow yourself to get so bogged down in a negative moment, because you know the beauty of football is that you'll have another chance for redemption next time. And I think with this England team in particular, it's so important that we cherish the moments that we've had throughout this competition, because at least for me, in my lifetime, to see an England side playing so well, creating so many opportunities, and being so young and diverse, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And in terms of building for the future, at least in my own head as an emotional football fan, it has given me a huge buzz, this tournament. Even though there is that temporary low of the experience of the defeat, what it really means, it's time to get excited. And I'm not going to sit here in every video saying it's coming home until Qatar 2022, because, you know, that would just be a little bit borderline aggressive in the footballing sense of the term. At the end of the day, how bad we feel about something, how sad are we? You know, do we have to take this sadness out on somebody else? Do we need to make someone else feel bad because we're not feeling good? And I think it's relevant not just for football, particularly the example, obviously, with the racism that Saka, Sancho and Rashford have experienced as a result of missing those penalties, but it's also something that is applicable in everyday life, in every communication that we have with any other human being on the planet. So yeah, this has been a different kind of video. I don't really know how to conclude it, to be honest, but I just wanted to let you guys know that it is absolutely okay for us to be down in the dumps, for us to be sad about things that happen in football. But the beauty of the sport is that every other week there is a time for emotional redemption, be that as an individual, but the most beautiful thing is the collective nature of what following a football club or a footballing nation means. It's a time for unification, unity of the people and the masses. And I firmly believe, despite a handful letting us down, I feel as though as an Englishman, I've never been prouder of my nation. And I think we can be very excited as for what is to come. But anyway, if you want to see me go down some rabbit holes like this in a bit more detail with a bit more planning in the future because it interests you, please let me know in the comments down below. And I'm so excited because in a month's time, Premier League football is back. Thank you guys for watching here on GBFC2. If you are not yet subscribed, I'd love to ask you to do so, and I'll catch you guys later.